Their many hard-fought battles won, the Z-Fighters have earned themselves a moment's peace. But a new assassin has suddenly appeared before them, the ruthless Android 13. His mission, destroy the 3 Super Saiyans, Goku, Vegeta, and Trunks. Even with their combined might, the Saiyans have proved to be no match for the unstoppable 13. And Goku has been forced to place all of his hopes in a single Spirit Bomb. "17! Why you?"
Now, to the game's credit, this is actually how the movie starts. It starts with Android 17 killing Dr. Gero. But of all the times to be faithful to the source material, this seems like one of the least important. This scene basically only exists so that way they could open the movie with an action sequence, and you could see Dr. Gero's computer immediately afterward. Like all of the DBZ movies, this one of course takes place in a different timeline. And its primary reason for existence just seems to be so that way they could have all 3 Super Saiyans currently available in the canon in a single movie. The original Japanese title of this movie is very honest about that. It straight up mentions the 3 Super Saiyans fighting together. So that way you have no doubts about what's going to happen in the movie and why you should watch it. And there being more androids secretly developed posthumously by Gero's computer is a lot more reasonable than making up new villains that are potentially relatives to Goku, like Turles. Although that film is a lot more memorable for its Tree of Might concept and music than this one is. But, you know, I'm just saying they didn't have to put too much effort into finding new villains to fight. They just used Dr. Gero's computer.
Take this! Finish! You pieces of garbage! Dr. Gero was betrayed and murdered by his own android creations. However, his laboratory computer had already been programmed to create a super android. And it continued working on its own.
How many androids did Dr. Gero make?
We were created by the Doctor's computer. Long after his death, his desire for vengeance lives on.
This is getting ridiculous.
Amazing. Looks like I'll have to sit back and watch a while.
I would agree with Trunks, this is getting a little bit ridiculous. So Android 13 here is obviously the main star, the main villain star of Super Android 13, but he had 2 buddies accompanying him, Android 14 and 15, and they're just absent from this game. And that's because they are shamelessly some of the least important characters in Dragon Ball history. So instead of fighting them and potentially getting some variety in here, we're just going to fight Android 13 a whole lot. But when I say that Android 14 and 15 are some of the least important characters in Dragon Ball history, I mean they only had one line, and it was to say Goku's name over and over. To give Funimation credit, they did attempt to add more character to Android 14 and 15 by giving them additional lines based on their appearance. But that just ended up having Android 15 talk like a stereotypical pimp, and Android 14 sounding really stoic. Which, I mean, I guess I can see how you could get that from their appearances, but it didn't add a whole lot to the movie. It is a lot of fun to play as Android 15 in Raging Blast 2, which as far as I know is the only game where he's playable. If there's one thing that game did, besides have a really great combat system, it was include a whole ton of characters nobody cared about, like Tarble. Tarble's in that game.
What?
Vegeta! Father!
Kakarot is mine! I, the Prince of all Saiyans, will be the one to defeat him! And I will not let a stupid puppet like you steal that away from me!
Whoa, looks like Goku won't be alone in his journey to the other side. 15. Taken.
All 3 Super Saiyans are here.
In the end, you're just a bunch of worthless can openers.
So, you beat 14 and 15?
The game says with the aid of Trunks, but I'm pretty sure Trunks just cut 14 in half with his sword. One of 14's lines in the Funimation dub actually refers to the sword, and that's like the only thing I can remember about Android 14, is that he mentions Trunks' sword. Vegeta got Android 15 all to himself, and Android 15 managed to punch Vegeta in the face like a whole bunch, and actually managed to knock Vegeta out of his Super Saiyan form, back to regular Vegeta, but I guess that wasn't important enough to mention. The brilliant strategy we are using here is to move out of the way whenever he inevitably uses his full power energy wave, and then counter with our own. That's all we're doing here. Because Android 13 loves to spam full power energy wave, and he's too stupid to get closer when it stops working. Oh yeah, before I forget, Trunks' sword actually breaks on Android 13 in this film, while in the canon it breaks on Android 18. But I mean, you gotta break the sword somehow, otherwise it wouldn't be impressive that the sword broke.
Kakarot, Piccolo, keep out of this! I'm going to finish him!
Instead of Vegeta just saying one line and then being stupid, in the movie they actually attempt to hold off Super Android 13 while Goku prepares a Spirit Bomb, which is a sensible plan, and it eventually works, as intended, much to everyone's surprise. But it's better than the version this game presents, where everybody just keeps smacking their head against Android 13's muscles until they win eventually. I mean, I don't think it would be that hard to add in dialogue about Goku preparing the Spirit Bomb while the others distracted Android 13, but apparently that was too much. I mean, it's kind of an underwhelming fight in any context, but it's painfully dragged out for the game. I say that even though the game takes less time than the film, so you know something weird's going on. You want me to talk about Super Android 13? I don't have anything to say about Super Android 13. There is nothing remarkable about him or his character. You want to talk about Android 14 some more instead? In Raging Blast 2, when Android 14 fights Super Android 13, Android 14 says, "Give us our parts back." There you go. There's your trivia.
Vegeta! What? Why does this keep happening to me? No!
Goku and Piccolo both moved in to attack, but were helpless against the might of the fused Android 13. I will defeat Kakarot! Though all hope seemed lost, the Super Saiyans fought desperately to the bitter end.
I actually had a bit of trouble to this fight because the game does get more difficult as time goes on. But I decided to circumvent this difficulty by just spamming Vegeta's blasts over and over. And that seemed to work perfectly fine. To clarify a bit on what I said earlier, Vegeta definitely did charge at Android 13, but there was a clear plan involved either before or after that is never mentioned. It's also true that Vegeta was destroyed in like half a second when he did charge at Super Android 13. So dragging that out into an entire fight wasn't really necessary. I mean, would it really have been that bad if the Super Android 13 saga only consisted of 2 fights? I get the game length is really important for some people, but I feel like no matter what, at the end of Dragon Adventure Mode, people would be very, very exhausted. On that note, if you are interested in a more streamlined version of this game, just play Tenkaichi 3. Its story mode is, well, it's streamlined to say the least. But it's also a lot less exhausting.
Finish! With the energy of the Spirit Bomb, Goku brought Android 13's rampage to an end.
By the way, are Piccolo and Vegeta okay?
They'll be fine.